Hi everyone, it's Ashley and I'm back this week with a new video for Hip Kit Club. And before I start my layout, I'm just going to show you some things in Silhouette Studio, how I use it to trace my files. So I'm going to use the awesome April cut file that I designed for this month. And I'm just going to open that from the folder that it's in. And you can see I want to use the Hello title, and you can see it's kind of surrounded by a couple of other cut files. So I'm going to show you how I trace that and get rid of those other pieces. So once I have the PNG open, I just go to Object and Trace, and that opens the trace window, and I click Select Trace Area. And then I just use my mouse to highlight over the PNG. And I only want that hello, hello part, so I'm just going to highlight over that. And once I have it selected, I go and uncheck the high pass filter box. And then I just click Trace under Apply Trace Method, and I can move the PNG and just go ahead and delete that. So now you can see I have a couple of things there that I don't want. So I'm going to go to Object and all the way down to Release Compound Path. So that's going to release all the lines for the image. And now I can just separate those. You can see that each piece, each line is separated, so I can go ahead and delete that stuff that I don't want. And I'm also going to get rid of the little talk bubble there at the bottom. So now all those inside pieces on my hello title you can see are also released. So before I move that or kind of change it up, I'm going to go back and I'm going to highlight over that and go to Object, and I'm going to group all that back together. So now all of those pieces are back together as one piece, so I can move it all at once without any of the inside pieces coming out. I can resize it to whatever size that I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that size to the size that I'm going to use and send it to my machine and cut it. And then I'm going to show you one more step here coming up in just a second that I'm going to do with that. I want to add another layer behind that, so you can see this is how I have it sized for the first cut that I did. And so now I want to cut just the outline. So since I had already released the compound path, I just went back and ungrouped that. And now I'm taking out all of those little inside pieces in each of the words. I didn't want to remove all of those because some of them are the divisions between the words, and I didn't want to get rid of those. So I'm just deleting those little inside sections. And you can see I'm just carefully clicking each one and then hitting the delete button to get rid of that. And so once I'm finished with that, I'll be able to send it to the Silhouette, and it's going to cut that background piece for me to add behind the one that I cut before. And those little spots, the little open spots in each of the letters, will be filled in with a pattern. So just to get that last one, and once I finish, I always go up to the Silhouette and the cut settings just to make sure I have my media selected. So I always select pattern paper if I'm using pattern paper, and make sure that my blade is set to match. So now you can see I have the two cuts here. I have the original cut, and then I have the little background. So I'm going to add some glue just a little bit around some of those edges. I didn't want to cover the whole thing just because it was so intricate. But you can see that I'm just adding some with one of the fine liner little glue bottles. Just enough to get that adhered to the little background piece there. And I'm using one of the Pinkfresh Studio pattern papers for my background. I really love that diagonal pattern with the grid on the bottom half and the hearts on the top half. So I'm going to add the title on the bottom half over the grid, and then I'm going to use some of those little acetate words that are also from Pinkfresh Studio just to kind of add those around the Hello Hello cut file, just to add some more color and a fun look down there over that grid pattern. And I like that those acetate words pick up all the colors in the hearts that are already on that pattern paper from Pinkfresh Studio. And you can get the paper in the main kit, in the April main kit, and it's also available in the paper add-on kit if you want to get that and get the extra papers, which I always need because I love pattern papers. Anytime you can get extra paper, I'm all for that. So now I have that kind of in place, and these are the little acetate words. So I'm going to start adding those just kind of all around. And I'm going to get these laid out first, just in the places that I want those to go. And I'm going to add some stitching. One reason is to hold them in place, and another reason is because it adds texture and interest. So I'm just kind of getting them all where I want them first. And once I have them in place, I'm just going to use one of the little tape runners just to add a little tiny touch of adhesive behind each one. to stick it to the background paper before I stitch it so they won't move when I'm trying to stitch with my sewing machine. So I've got just a couple more there to add on. And I loved how those all fit, and I love the way the transparent looks with the filled in cut file. I like that contrast. So you can see there I just added a teeny bit of adhesive, and I'm going to take that off screen and stitch all of that just so I can have all of those in place and then come back and finish up the rest of the layout. So I wanted to use 2 photos on this layout, and I kind of liked how I had those little areas right there where the photos fit perfectly, just right there by the acetate words and the title. So I just kind of overlapped those right there together. And I wanted everything to kind of just go diagonally. And I used these little rubber charms that are also Pink Fresh Studio. You can see that I used a lot of Pink Fresh Studio from the kits on this layout. And I took that adhesive backing off because I wanted to be able to place these down first and see how they worked across the page, across that diagonal without them sticking. So once I took that adhesive backing off, I just used some of my own glue to add back on there and then adhere those to the layout. And it works fine. And if you wanted to, you could get your placement and then you could go back and add the already pre-made adhesive backing to it. But I just find that it's usually easier to take that off if I'm doing something like this, trying to, get things placed without sticking them to the paper and then trying to pull it back up. Now this one I left the adhesive backing on because I already knew I wanted to add it to the center of the star. So I did not take the adhesive backing off of that one. And then these are more Pink Fresh Studio. I did not pay attention to what kit all of these were from. So if you want to find out the specific kits that each of these pieces are from, you can go to the Hip Kit website and look at the April kits to see what's included in each of the kits. When mine comes, I just kind of grab everything and go crazy with it. So I just kind of mix everything together. So now I'm finally getting to a few things that are not Pink Fresh Studio. I wanted to add some of the wood veneers from Simple Stories. So I wanted to place some of those kind of around the little epoxy stickers there around the layout. So I'm just getting a couple of those in place. It adds a different texture on the layout. So I like that, having the wood veneers there. And I do add some of the enamel dots there to the left. Those are my Mind's Eye, the On Trend collection. And I finish up a couple of things right here, and then I have to stop because we actually were getting ready to go out to dinner. So I'm almost done here, and I add a couple of other things here off camera that you'll see on the full layout. So I hope you will join me next week for a new layout and a new video. So I will see you then.